Welcome aboard the 427 pod, the trade deadline special edition of the program. It is July 31st. By the time you watch this episode, it will most certainly be August. So let us give you one last July goodbye. I'm Chris, joined as always by my co-host Jerry. Today was the trade deadline, and it was a pretty wild one. Probably one of the more wild ones we've had in probably at least 4 years. Both
I would say
the
it's the most active of the expanded playoff era.
Yeah, the most active. I don't think 4 years ago wasn't expanded playoffs yet, right?
No, the one where Trey Turner and Max Scherzer and all them got no, that was the last of the 4 team.
Yeah. 21 was the last of the 21 was like the last year of the 14. They had the they had the fucking what do you call it? Well, they still had the wild card game, but
Yeah.
they had the Mickey Mouse like playoffs the year before for COVID, but that was like the last year of like the traditional playoffs with like the one wild card game, and then 22 was when.
Well, the reason I say that is because with the when they put in the 2 additional wild cards, I feel like that kind of took the juice out of the trade deadline, because you had more teams that were like, do we really want to sell? We're only 4 out. We're only 4 out of the third. We can make a run. So you don't. If anything,
so many
teams more action in the winter now than in season.
Yeah, like there's so many teams that are, even still now, and even some of the teams that did end up selling today, and other teams that were, rumored to sell. The Guardians were rumored to be having a big fire sale. There were Stephen Kwan rumors all over the timeline. They're only 2.5 games back. Tampa made a few selling moves. They're 3.5 games back. Kansas City's 3 games back. They were kind of, I'd say, more in a little bit more of a buyer's mindset. You had the Reds. Definitely buying 3.5 games back. And then the Cards and Giants, 5-6 games back.
The Marlins didn't sell.
Yeah, the Braves stood pat, which, I think it makes sense for them. Like, I think you just chalk it up to like, okay, we're still a good team. We just had like a horrendous start this year that we were not able to recover from.
Which is fair, but I guess more so in the Braves case, it's you've got a guy who's leaving at the end of the year. He's still putting up reasonably decent numbers for the position that he's playing.
Right.
I can't imagine that they bring him back just because he's closer to the end of his career, and they probably want to free that money up for somebody else. So yeah, Ozuna I don't know how many teams were truly interested, but the fact that the Braves, it didn't really sound like they were all that close to really moving him. At least with some of the names that didn't move, like you heard Joe Ryan and you heard a few names that were trying to get moved. It didn't.
Yeah, Dylan Cease.
If anything, the Braves actually brought in guys, which was why.
It doesn't really make sense at this point in the deadline. But let's get and I guess and I mean, as far as Osuna goes, I mean, he I guess he is having a bit of a down year this year, but like he's still capable of like hitting a ball 500 feet at like any time, and that's something that always makes a huge difference, like especially come playoffs. Like that's a guy you want to have, whether it's as your DH or as like even as like a pinch hitter, when like say your catcher who's like an automatic out in the 8th spot, you're getting to that point where you're down in a game, down in a series, and you need a big hit. Like, Osuna, despite having a down year and getting a little older, you always feel, I think he's someone you'd feel pretty good if you see him coming off the bench, like in a big spot.
Just make sure you hire him a chauffeur. I mean, that's all.
Make sure he's got Uber programmed into his phone, and
counseling too.
Counseling. Make sure he's got better help on there.
Yeah, make sure he's got his mentals. That's important.
Yeah, no, they are not sponsoring us, at least not yet. But anyway, it was also very active.
Wife, we wouldn't have to state this.
Yeah. It was also a very active. It was also a very active deadline for both of the local teams that we cover here, the Yankees and the Mets. So let's get right into it. Let's start with the Mets.
That was a whirlwind yesterday. I think yesterday was maybe the biggest of it. They started first with getting Gregory Soto. So we had mentioned here over the past couple of shows that we felt like both our teams needed to get that second lefty, because at least in the Mets case, you have Brooks Raley's back now and he looks good. But it was, hey, sometimes you pull your starter early and you need a guy to get you need a lefty to get a couple outs right here in the fifth. Well, Gregory Soto can be that. So I thought, okay, that's a decent acquisition if we're going to start overhauling the bullpen. And I think that was last Thursday or Friday. Thought that was a decent move. And then nothing until yesterday, which I got to say, initially, I was one of the people that was panicked about the Tyler Rogers deal. Not because I don't think he's good. He is. And
quite the hefty price, though.
Initially. And having given it 24 hours and given everything that unfolded after that, made it a little easier to stomach. I think initially it was more sticker shock than anything when you see three names. And first it was Blade Tidwell, who was a prospect at one point, but then had multiple opportunities with the Mets at the major league level this year, and it just didn't click for him. And that's not to say it can't, but given what we saw at the major league level,
yeah, you haven't seen it happen there. You haven't seen it happen there yet. And I mean,
and I don't know what his ceiling is now. Like initially he was a starter. They gave him a couple of starts. They gave him a long relief role. He didn't really thrive in either of those spots. So it's okay. He's, I believe, 24 now. I believe he was a college pick.
Yeah.
So it's okay. He's 24, 25 years old. And I don't know how you use him right now. Drew Gilbert was the big one because he was a high pick coming out of college. He had great college numbers. And the big thing being that he was one of the two guys we got back for Verlander. But I think it's worth stating, especially given the deal that they made today. They were looking for center field help all year after Jose Siri got hurt. Again, Tyrone Taylor probably shouldn't have to be your everyday center fielder. He's kind of been thrust into that role. I think some of the criticism's unfair to him because he shouldn't have to play this much. But they were looking for center field help. And instead of getting the kid that they had gotten for Justin Verlander, they put 33-year-old Jeff McNeil in center field when he'd never played that anywhere at the professional level.
Yeah, and like he was fine.
What was that?
And like he was fine in center field, but like you don't want to be doing that every day either.
Correct.
Not, it's not the ideal scenario.
But it does say a lot about Drew Gilbert that I never really heard any chatter that, hey, they might promote him. Like you're hearing it right now with the starting pitchers where, hey, they might call Sprode up. They might call McLean. There's even been a little chatter that maybe if Carson Bench just keeps hitting like this at Double-A, they do it. I don't think they will. But Drew Gilbert never got that. So I think that tells you kind of what they think of him. And remember, he was also acquired by a previous regime, not David Stearns. Jose Budo also was kind of a shock initially because it was, all right, well, we're getting a very useful guy for our bullpen, but we're also trading a guy who's really useful.
We're also losing a bullpen arm in the process.
And someone who I don't know right now if you have a guy for that role. And yeah, Buto's not the guy that you're calling in the eighth inning when you need to get Nick Castellanos out.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, hey, there's nights where it's like your starter's out in the third inning because he doesn't have it. And Jose Buto would come in and throw 3 innings. That's valuable in its own right, where you're not burning your A bullpen guys in the 5th inning, where Jose Buto can just come in here and handle that role. Apparently, they want to stretch Huáscar Brazoban out for that role in the minor leagues. I don't know if that's the best use of resources right now, especially
sound like a great idea,
especially with what we've seen lately. So yeah, I guess my concern would be is, well, do you have someone who can do that? Because a guy like that is also very valuable in the playoffs. Buteau did that in the playoffs last year. David Peterson did that in the playoffs last year. You do need a guy like that in case things go sideways. They can. Now, as we sit here on Thursday night, it makes a lot more sense because they went and got Ryan Helsley. And that makes things a little easier to digest now because you can look at it and go, okay, well, they just completely reconfigured the bullpen. Tyler Rogers is your 7th inning guy. Ryan Helsley's your 8th inning guy. And Edwin Diaz is still great in the 9th. And that pushes everybody down a rung. Like, now you're bringing in Reed Garrett and Ryan Stanek in for the 5th and 6th innings, which people have their grievances with them. I still think they're mostly fine on the whole.
They're mostly reliable.
But if you don't have to use them every single night and they're not always in the high leverage spots, I feel like that changes a lot.
Yeah, and these moves definitely give you that flexibility to not have to burn so many innings on them. It also, I mean, like losing Budo does kind of suck in that regard. Like, that it's always valuable to have like the long reliever if your starter gets hurt or doesn't have it. Which, of which there have been quite a few cases of that for the Mets, both
like,
recent and
everybody in the bullpen pitched last night. Can you throw us 4? We got to save somebody.
Yeah,
like, he'll do that.
He can come out and do that. And while that is valuable, it kind of also puts you in a position where if something like that were to happen where, you only get like 2 to 3 innings out of your starter, whoever's coming in like the 3rd or 4th, like, since it moves up the pecking order, it makes getting like, if you could stay in the game, it makes getting to the back end to get to like, Helsley, Soto, and Diaz. Like, it makes that path like easier to get to. So while it does suck to lose that guy who could like cover those innings, I think at the end of the day, you take like having a longer bullpen over having that guy.
Oh, 100%. Because I was thinking about this while I was out earlier, and I'm trying to think of when the Mets have had a setup like this for their bullpen in my lifetime. And, in 2015, I feel like there's a lot of revisionist history on Jerry's Familia that he was just never really any good. That's not true. He was good in 2015, and that year you had Addison Reed for the 8th and Tyler Clippard for the 7th, which was pretty good. 2006, before Duaner Sanchez got hurt, that's probably the best one they've had, and Cal Raleigh just hit his 41st.
Is that the only game that's on right now? The Texas
because there are only 3 games today, and I said correct at 42 for Cal Raleigh. I don't know when he hit 41 unless he most all time by a switch hitting catcher. It just said
is Suarez playing?
I believe so. Well, we're gonna see because they're right in the heart of the Mariner order right now.
Oh, no shit. Yeah, no, because I mean we'll get to it more later, but I mean
the only other one
he is playing
is 2006, where you had Chad Bradford, ironically a Submariner, Aaron Heilman in the 7th, Duaner Sanchez in the 8th before he got hurt, and then Billy Wagner in the 9th, and you had 2 really good lefties in Pedro Feliciano and Darren Oliver. This to me
Chad
feels
Bradford,
like the they've had since. But and this also really helps you talk about, being able to get to that bridge quicker, and it makes it easier to get to Diaz. This really is a 2-pronged attack because, what have we been saying for weeks has been the issue with the Mets pitching. They're not going very deep.
Yeah, you're not getting the length, and you're burning out the bullpen. So even though you didn't get an ace or get a starter, you kind of still got 2 birds stoned at once by getting multiple, like high-end relievers to just shore end, just to like shore up the back end that much more.
In a way, this is kind of the Mets, I think, are trying to do what, Kansas City did when they beat them, where it was basically, if you don't have the lead by the 7th inning, forget it. Because you're not, when they had Ryan Madsen, Kelvin Herrera, and Wade Davis, like just if Kansas City had the lead, forget it. You were not scoring on them. And I think they're trying to build their version of that. And I know people will talk about, it's an arms race now because Philly went out and got Johan Duran, which, not to downplay him at all. He's really good, and that's definitely a guy that if the Mets got him, I would have been thrilled.
Yeah, I definitely wanted the Yankees to get him. He was kind of like for what the price was looking like, because I think obviously, like, we can all agree Mason Miller is probably the best reliever that got moved.
Oh yeah.
But also like what you had to give up to get him, like we definitely would have had to trade like Spencer Jones to get him. Like you're talking like top prospects.
Man, if the A's start paying any of these kids, oh boy.
Yeah.
We might have something here.
Yeah, well, they should be coming up right around when they go to Vegas. So they should have some more money.
But people have said it's like, oh well, it's an arms race in the bullpen between the teams in the East, and again, Johan Duran's a good closer. All respect to him, and that'll be a challenge, no doubt about it. I've said this during this season, and I said it last October. There's no reason to fear that Philly bullpen, especially with what the Mets did in the playoffs last year. You know, you shouldn't worry about facing Matt Strahm or Kerkering or Romano or any of those guys. You can beat them. Now, Johan Duran will be a challenge, no doubt. I feel like what the Mets just did is teams are going to have to face this team where you face Rogers in the 7th, and his knuckles are scraping the ground when he delivers. And then you've got Helsley, who not only has, I think they've said it's like, I think his is like a 60-degree arm angle, and Tyler Rogers is -60.
Yeah, so he's basically like, you have one guy who's pitching from like 56 feet away, and then you have the other guy who's pitching from like left center field, basically,
and throwing 102.
Yeah,
and then you got Diaz, who throws sidearm, and he's throwing 99. So good luck trying to pick that up.
Yes, good luck indeed.
God, I hope these are not famous last words.
Yeah. Hopefully this doesn't all age. Like spoiled milk on a July afternoon during this heat wave. Turn the sun down.
But during the game yesterday, I was like, man, I don't know about that price for Rogers. Like it's a good fix for the bullpen, but
that was my initial reaction too. I thought that was quite a bit to give up for him.
But then the Helsley thing happened, and it's like, oh, that's what they were doing. Okay, they were always going to make a second move. Okay. And
sometimes
looking at the guys that we dealt for Helsley, the names that they gave up for Rogers are more recognized because they've been around longer or
they've had experience at the major league level.
The guys that they gave up for Helsley were making their way up the prospect rankings. Jesus Baez was really good at St. Lucie. Frank Ellisalt I've seen. I forget. I know it's going to sound silly. I forget who the third name was. But I looked at the Helsley trade initially. I was like, ooh, that's interesting. And then I realized, like, that's probably the cost of doing business. Like, this was the guy who led the league in saves last year. He's been a multi-time All-Star. That's probably what it costs to get someone like him. Okay. Weirdly enough, I felt more comfortable about that on first glance than I did with Rogers. And now with Rogers, it's like, well, they had the right idea. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Does it almost feel like because of the untapped potential of the guys they gave up for Helsley and the fact that they're going to the Cardinals, who just like pump prospects out of their ass no matter what, like, does it almost feel like maybe you gave up more for Helsley than you did for Tyler Rogers?
I actually have a counterpoint on that. We've seen the track record that the Cardinals have had for about the last 8-9 years now with their prospects. Now, they've hit on a couple, to be sure, but they've also not been able to judge their own guys and sent them elsewhere.
They have missed on quite a few. Like Jordan Walker, he was a big whiff.
Oh, not even necessarily that, but like they had Zach Gallen. They had Sandy Alcantara, and they gave that up for 1 year of Marcelo Zuna. Like, they had a Rosarena. That didn't work. Like, they've had all these guys that were just like, if they made no moves, if they didn't trade for anybody or free agency or nothing, they would have been fine.
They'd probably be World Series contenders right now.
So it's like, okay, yeah, they did trade for our guys, but do I know that they're going to use them correctly? I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like they could get, they could come out of that system and end up being really good in the MLB, but also they're, also like they might not see that light of day with the Cardinals. Like they might end up doing that somewhere else. Because the Cardinals, I feel like, they're such a volatile team. Like, even this year, like I feel like even this year, it's like, are they contending, or are they are they contending? Are they buying? Are they selling? It kind of changed like every day, every week, and then till eventually the deadline came and they did what they did. But
even in this case, because like everyone brings up the Baez trade this year, and I mean I know we've litigated that a ton on here, but that one you could at least say like, okay, you kind of knew your team was fraudulent and DeGrom probably wasn't coming back. Why'd you do it? I'll at least hear that case out. Like, okay, you might have a point. We know this team has a chance to win the World Series this year. They went to Game 6 of the NLCS last year against the team that won it, and they are in first place in the NL East right now. Whether these prospects become anything or not, I don't know. But very clearly, they have a chance to win it right now. They had a need that they needed to go fix. As we sit here right now, I think they did that to the best of their ability.
Yeah, quite frankly,
I can't tell you if this team's going to win it or not, but this is a move where it's like, hey, this is doing business. This is what you have to do sometimes.
Yeah, this is what doing business looks like, and this is what like going for it looks like. Sometimes the trades hurt, and like trades are kind of supposed to hurt, and quite frankly, you don't know what the you don't know what these prospects are going to become, but like right now, you shouldn't care. That should be like the least of your worries, unless you have someone that you think is like going to be like, unless you think you have the next Juan Soto in your pipeline.
Well, and the darlings of their system did not get touched. McLean, Sproat, Tong, Carson Benj are all still there. So that's huge.
Yeah. So they did give up. They did go all in, I would say, or about as all in as you can go.
I would say this was a B+ deadline.
Yeah.
If only because I think they could have gotten one more starting pitcher. I don't know what calls were made on that or what have you. I think they tried to address the center field situation. It clearly looks like the White Sox overplayed their hand with Luis Robert based on the fact that he's still there. I think everybody just disengaged at some point today where it was just, okay, this is too rich for us. We can't do it.
Yeah,
and everybody
at what point is it like, all right, like, batting average is the stat that it is in today's MLB. It's not as relevant as some of the other stats, but at what point are you just like, yeah, we're not giving all this up for like a 220 hitter and someone who has like pretty consistently been a 220 hitter for the last couple of years now. It seems more and more like
on the off chance he's the guy he was 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, on that off chance. And I mean, obviously he would have been a better like defensive upgrade in center field than than Cedric Mullins was, but I think that you had, like if defense was the issue, like I'm sure you would be fine if defense was the issue in center field, like you would be fine with getting by, I think, with Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri if and when he ever eventually comes back.
And if worse comes to worse, like Tyrone Taylor probably will still be the late game defensive replacement, which not a problem at all. If he's around just for that, that's a great role for him. He is overqualified to be that.
Yeah, but if you're looking for pop out of that position, which I think center field is like, typically supposed to be one of the poppier positions, unless you have just some absolute like speed demon out there. Then Cedric Mullins is definitely, I think, and granted, he's not the Cedric Mullins that he was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, but he's still, he's still got some pop in his bat. I would say you got to take the bat. I'd say they made the right move as far as upgrading their lineup. I think that Cedric Mullins is a better fit for the Mets and what they were trying to do with their lineup than Luis Robert would have been. And I also think that Cedric Mullins might be, he might even like have like a renaissance with the Mets because he's going to have so much protection in that lineup. Like the Orioles had him batting like, pretty much like in the top, the top half, or if not the top three of the lineup for a lot of his career. Now, now it's more like, okay, like you can bat Cedric Mullins like sixth or seventh, like after you get through the gauntlet of Lindor, Soto, Pete, the Brandon Nimmo, and
let's add Ronnie Mauricio to that list.
Yeah, Ronnie Mauricio. He's been,
I am ODing on the hype.
Brett Beatty and Brett Beatty and also Jeff McNeil. Like once you get through that gauntlet, then it's like, okay, Cedric Mullins is batting like seventh or eighth. Like, so it's really just even less of a break in like the chaos for the lineup. So yeah, I think not as a non-Mets fan, but unbiasedly, I would say I really like what overall I really like what the Mets did. They did pay a bit of a steep price for some of the arms they got, but I think that this deadline was also kind of a reminder, not only for the Mets but also for the Yankees, that you kind of have to see with a full body of work and see what your team looks like at 6 o'clock on July 31st or on the diamond on August 1st to really be able to judge, to start judging like, all right, how did we do at the deadline?
There were a couple of numbers with Mullins that I do think are interesting. This one's from Danny Abriano, which is people saying that Mullins isn't that much of an offensive upgrade. Tyrone Taylor in 96 games this year, 201, 258, 295 with 2 home runs and an OPS plus of 60. Cedric Mullins in 91 games, 229, 305, 433 with 15 home runs and a 105 OPS plus.
Yeah, and his actual OPS is like in the sevens.
Here's another good one. He has a 769 OPS with runners in scoring position this season. That would be 4th on this team. I'll take that.
Yeah, no, you take that. I think you take that every day of the week.
And then this would be the potential lineup now by OPS. Nimmo 123, Lindor 113, Soto 151, Pete 142, McNeil 131, Starling Marte 127, which that should help. That's another way that they can use Mullins, because it doesn't sound like Jesse Winker is close to being back. Might not play this year. They're not really getting any progress from him from that injury. So the DH platoon, it might be something of Marte and Vientos and McNeil, or not McNeil, or Cedric Mullins.
Yeah, whoever needs a night off in the field.
Mullins 105, Alvarez 106, Mauricio 115, which teams like to employ using the number 9 spot now, not just for the worst hitter, but almost like that second leadoff hitter. And
yeah,
I don't know if Mauricio would necessarily fit being a quote unquote second leadoff hitter, but he is a wild card there. And he is a
wild card. He's definitely above he's definitely above 8th hitter material, but that's almost kind of just where he falls in right now.
And they finish this with, as annoying as they are, you can't control slumps. Most teams would kill for a lineup with no below average hitters by OPS plus. This is a lineup that's good enough to win. And some of its injury concerns, I know we've talked about Lindor having the broken toe since the Dodgers series. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I did see somewhere today where it was the series against the Nationals in June where Pete got hit on the hand. That's where his numbers took the dive since that day. And you just wonder, like I said, they don't have to miss a month, but maybe like 10 days would help to not be swinging, to not have to do all the extra work that they do. Like maybe just 10 days of reset would do a world of good for them. I get you can't really do it when you're a game up in the East, but still, it just feels like if you can get these guys out of it with the other bats starting to come alive and the addition that you make with Mullins, like maybe you're not that far off. And I mean, who knows? Ultimately, the biggest move that was made at the deadline last year was the Dodgers getting Tommy Edman. Like nobody would have predicted that then. Like, why can't Cedric Mullins be that guy? I'm not saying he will be, but why can't he?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of that good of a reason why he couldn't be. It's kind of an interesting, it's kind of Tommy Edman is kind of an interesting comp in the sense that Tommy Edman was someone who, obviously came up through the Cardinals, looked like he had a very high season or a very high ceiling. Then he kind of fell off a bit, and his value was kind of low, and it was kind of like it was kind of, I feel like a bit of like a sneaky like sleeper kind of move by the Dodgers to snag him at the deadline. But the way he fit into their lineup, he fit in perfectly, and he ended up being a major contributor. Didn't he? Was he the one who won NLCS MVP?
The very same.
And then he was very much, I think if Freddie Freeman doesn't go absolutely nuclear, I think he probably would have been next in line to win World Series MVP too. Like he was just on fire the entire playoffs.
I've just learned right now the Yankees DFA'd Oswald Peraza. I legitimately didn't know this.
I also didn't know that. I knew that he I guess they did I guess they DFA'd him to make room for some of the guys they got.
Well, because the Angels just claimed him because it says that they DFA'd Kevin Newman to open a 40-man spot for him, and someone just put they DFA'd Kevin Newman for Venezuelan Kevin Newman. Which I got nothing.
Yeah, I got nothing either. No lies detected. I also didn't know that we DFA'd Oswald Peraza. I thought he either got sent down or was just like, or I figured he was just like on the bench since we got Ryan McMahon and didn't have to use Peraza anymore. But God bless the Angels. Best of luck with Ozzy Peraza.
Peraza's gonna be like, this is bullshit. At least I know how many outs there are when I'm on the bases.
Yeah. I don't know how true this is, but Josie McFly tweeted that. What do you call it? He tweeted that yesterday. He's like, just a reminder, as we're like, a day before the deadline. He's like, just a reminder that Brian Cashman didn't trade for Matt Olson because Peraza was part of the deal. Not sure how true that is or not, but apparently, but apparently that's something. Apparently that is something that happened. So
and coming off last week's show, Steve Phillips very nearly traded David Wright for Jose Cruz Jr. So also remember that the next time you see any of his analysis floating around, that fucking guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of wild how he even got a job,
especially after other things.
Yeah, especially after other Marcelo Ozuna related activities.
I didn't know about that. I was just talking about the crazy woman in his life.
Oh, who was that? Or wait, no, maybe that was a different. I'm thinking about a different Mets GM who the one who got the DUI.
Oh, you're thinking of Zach Scott.
Yeah, Zach Scott.
Well, I mean,
as far as I know, Steve Phillips, I guess I don't know if he has, I don't know if he has gotten any DUIs, but yeah, I guess he did have that situation. But I would say B+, A-, probably like a fair grade for the Mets deadline. I think I'd probably give the Yankees around about the same. A lot of the reports leading up to the deadline for the Yankees was that it was basically to not expect like anything too big, that pretty much like, they're gonna kind of, and like I guess getting Ryan McMahon on Friday, like last week, kind of was like setting the tone for that a little bit. It's like, okay, like we got Ryan McMahon, like, we all wanted We all wanted Eugenio Suarez to be a Yankee. Well, maybe you didn't want it, or maybe certain people didn't want it, but we all, us Yankee fans, everyone wanted Eugenio Suarez. Everyone's like, you have to get this guy, his bat, Yankee Stadium. Put him in that lineup with Judge when he's healthy, Bellinger, Stanton, and it's pretty scary. And honestly, like the Mariners lineup is starting to look pretty scary too. Like with
I will say, for what Suarez ultimately got moved for, I mean, we were kind of hypothesizing. Well, I mean, I guess we didn't do this on air because the McMahon trade was after the next last go. But we were like, man, if they're already just out on the Suarez trade already, what's the price going to be? I mean, and I know we weren't the only ones. I saw a lot of people being like, man, this is going to be a high prospect haul. Yeah. And then the word came through, and it was like, that's it.
Yeah,
I know he's an expiring, but he's got 36 home runs. That's it.
Yeah,
so it makes
yeah,
me wonder, like, what could the Yankees have given up, or was that even there? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they just would have needed to hold out a little longer,
Possibly,
because the price. Yesterday's price is like not today's price, or whatever the saying is, and obviously, as the deadline gets closer, depending where you're at as far as how you're performing. And I think that, the fact that the Diamondbacks had a pretty brutal stretch, like going into the deadline, definitely didn't help their cause. But it does sound like they were asking for a lot for Suarez from us like a week ago, because all the rumors, like all month long, like, all the rumors and all the reporters were saying, yeah, like the Yankees and Diamondbacks have been like in constant contact about Eugenio Suarez. So it did seem like Cashman was like steadfast on getting him. And then, just kind of out of nowhere, it's like, oh no, we're getting Ryan McMahon instead, which you kind of had to start preparing yourself for it as you get closer to the deadline. Cause it's like, that Cashman has his price of doing business, for better or worse. Sometimes it's for better, sometimes it's for worse. Like when you allegedly won't include Oswald Peraza to get Matt Olson. But of course, it's a lot easier to say that now. There was a time where Oswaldo Peraza was, hyped up to be a lot more than what he is.
And then after the deadline, they asked Cashman if Spencer Jones was untouchable, and he said, and I quote, "Some guys are more touchable than others." To quote Drewski, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Have you ever visited the Combs residence?
I was trying to get to the line where we were gonna give Jude the beats for that, but you scared us back into the skid. Yeah.
Whoops.
Trying to get us out of that.
It's okay. Just do it anyway.
That's how you dance around the quote.
Yeah.
Some people just went, wee!
Yeah, or if you're Jude, you dance around it by doing the Super Mario dance. That's his.
No, he swan dived. Anyway,
he swan dived. He swan dived like it was his swan song.
Oh, Jesus.
We love you, Jude.
I cannot believe how personally invested I am as a fan of an NFC team that I want to see the Jets be like 13-4 this year, and like Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields just get like commercial after commercial.
Just being loud as
just
fuck.
to see what happens.
Yeah.
What do I care?
I don't think you'll hear. I don't think you'll hear too much from him. I think if anything, he'll be. He'll be ecstatic if the Jets win 13 games. I mean, we all would. I mean, nobody. They've actually never done that in their history. But
I mean, again, I am with you guys, like trying to wish that into existence. If only for the banter.
Yeah. No, the banter would be undefeated if that does happen.
It would be legendary.
But until then, we'll continue to argue with him about, winning 5 or 6 games and why sucking quietly versus sucking loudly is just sucking at the end of the day and doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how loudly or quietly you do it. And it's not really possible to do it quietly when you're in the NFL and when you're in New York. But Different, different discussions for different Discord channels, different podcasts, different whatever. But back to the
I steered you off topic. My bad. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, you're good. You mentioned that very suspect Cashman quote about touchable men, and and then Jude got involved, so we were bound to go a little off the rails there. But getting back to the Yankees, so yeah, like I feel like the week leading up to the deadline, like there's not a whole lot of movement, and given like what the Yankees have done in recent deadlines, you kind of start to temper your expectations a little bit as a Yankee fan. Like, all right, yeah, they're probably gonna go shopping in the bargain bin. You're not really gonna see like the big you're not gonna see like the big splash move. And that was kind of true. And, like getting Ryan McMahon instead of Suarez kind of set the tone for that. But overall, you really can't complain about what Ryan McMahon has done, since joining the Yankees. He's been a very sure hand at third base. By the way,
I know we really haven't had a chance to discuss the trade, but I just remember when the Mets had their series in Denver last year, they must have hit 20 balls to third base in that series. And I swear he caught like 19 of them. Like, it got annoying. Like, all right, come on, man.
Yeah.
You guys are 30 out. You can't be trying this hard.
Yeah, he is always a plus defender. You can pencil him in for 20 homers like every year. He's already hit 16 with the Rockies before the trade. He had his first welcome to the Yankees moment last night where he hit the walk-off double to deep center field to win what was a pretty wild game for the Yankees last night. And another one of those games that feels like could be like the turning of a tide in a season type of game, because you go from Volpe making an error to the Devin Williams blowing a save, then Volpe hitting the home run, then Austin Wells having his base running blunder. Yeah, this game had everything. And then Ryan McMahon called game in the 11th. He saw Ian Hamilton warming up, and he said, "Yeah, fuck that. I know." He's like, I've seen this movie before plenty of times in Colorado. But yeah, the Yankees.
I think there is something to bringing a guy like that who's been productive on bad teams and his numbers have kind of dropped a little bit. And then you put him in a situation like this where he was on the Rockies in 2018. So he hasn't been in a pennant race or a playoff race in 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. You could tell he was
my games actually matter. Oh, this is great.
Yeah, you could tell he's been thirsting for he's been thirsting for like playing meaningful baseball games again. 100%. Like, forget October, even just playing meaningful baseball in like July and August. I feel like he's been longing for that. But
like, man, the stands are actually full. This is great.
Yeah, he also had a pretty gangster quote like after he hit that walk off. He was like, yeah, my thought was like, thank God I don't have to bunt right now. Like, let's lift this thing and go home, basically.
Kevin Lewis was like this.
Yeah. No, you gotta love that, man. You gotta love the moxie of that quote.
It's also, we do need to get Kev on the show because it's very funny that the Yankees have Ryan McMahon, because he and I share a fantasy league, and one of the teams that's been in our league for a few years, for multiple years, was trying to get anybody and everybody, and Ryan McMahon was always their centerpiece going back to like I'm trying to even find like a good like if I had Ellie De La Cruz and they wanted Ellie, they'd be like, well, our offer starts with Ryan McMahon. Like, no,
it's like Ryan McMahon and a bunch of other guys. And it's like
stuff.
It's like, no, actually, yeah, that's pretty humorous. It's like, actually,
go to every team asking for their best player, and the offer would start with Ryan McMahon. It's like, yeah, he's fine. I'm not giving you Ellie for him. What are
Yeah.
we talking about? And now
Yeah,
he's on Kevin, yours favorite team. It's very funny to me.
yeah. It's like read this. It's like here, just read this note. Note says go fuck yourself. But but yeah, no, Kev, if you are watching, we gotta get you on. Let us know when we can make that happen.
Yeah, spiritually, Kev should be on this show. It's
Yeah. Yeah, no, always with us in spirit. But yeah, they have him under team control for another 2 years after this versus Suarez, who could have been a 2 to 3 month rental. I don't know if the Diamondbacks were making us pay Yankee tax and they were asking for Jones or Lombard or like Ben Hess or any of like our super super high end prospects or if the price just went down and we just kind of said fuck it early. But they give up their number, they give up their number 8 and number 21 prospects, which is not, for Griffin Herring and Josh Groves, 2 pitchers. So, I'm not really gonna sweat that too much. I think that we have
no Harry
enough.
Ford, no Michael Arroyo. No.
Yeah, I think we have enough. I think we have enough pitching right now. So I think we have enough pitching now, and I think that I don't anticipate pitching being a problem by the time those guys are like ready to come up.
I also like what you guys did in terms of doing the same thing we did in terms of shortening the game, where it's, I think you said, I don't know if it was on last week's show or 2 weeks ago, where it's, Devin Williams got over the early scuffling and he's generally pretty, last night aside, obviously, but he's generally been pretty reliable for you. Luke Weaver has had some wobbles, but I think still has benefit of the doubt from how good he was last year. So
yeah,
I
still believe in Luke Weaver.
2 of the better names available on the market late. Like I think post 4 o'clock, you got. I know Duvall was like right at the buzzer.
Yeah, Duvall was
Bednar might have been like
last minute. Yeah, Duvall was literally last minute. But yeah, we get McMahon. You don't sell the farm for it, and he's made kind of like when we acquired Jazz last year. Even though it made more sense for Jazz to be the third baseman last year because you at least had Glaber at second base instead of just the black hole of DJ LeMahieu. If anything, Jazz like took DJ out of the lineup, but he comes up and he's contributing right away and like improving the team right away. So, that's definitely a move that I will not complain about. Then today they of course they get David Bednar from the Pirates. They gave up they really didn't give up much of anything. They gave up Rafael Flores, Edwin Perez, and Brian Sanchez. Edwin Perez is like Edwin Perez is like a 24-year-old. I believe he's a 24-year-old catcher who strikes out like 30% of the time.
Ooh.
Yeah, the other. Yeah, they gave up 2.
Wait. Edwin Perez is 19.
Oh, okay. I guess it was okay. I guess it was Rafael Flores was who
and he will turn 25 after the season. So that's one of those where it's like it's kind of how I feel about Gilbert, where it's like, hey, look, if he makes it from here, like, hey, sometimes you roll the dice and you get snake eyes. Like you have to be willing to move on from a 25-year-old where it's even for a catcher, and generally it's understood catchers take longer to develop, but it's like you at least want him to have like 100 plate appearances in the majors by 24. Like for it to take this long, and he's not a college product, because at least with a college guy, it's okay. He graduated at 22. All right, it's going to take him a little time to get used to the pros. He was an international signing. He's 24, and he's not in the major leagues yet. Given that you guys have needed catching help, that kind of says something.
Yeah. The Pirates have just perpetually needed catching help between Austin Hedges, Henry Davis, Yasmani Grandal, like every like makeshift makeshift catcher room that they attempt to have. So the fact they acquired they were willing to take 2 catchers in this deal is definitely kind of telling. And then if Rafael Flores, the 25-year-old prospect that strikes out a lot, is if he is our number 8 prospect, then maybe our prospect pool just isn't that deep. Now, admittedly, I didn't really want David Bednar, and I'm still kind of waiting for the shoe to drop with him. Like, obviously, he's been lights out for a couple of months now, and he's been by far the Pirates' best reliever. He regains his status as the closer. Obviously, he's not going to be closing with the Yankees. Per Aaron Boone, Devin Williams will stay the closer, which I'm fine with. I honestly think that with these 3 guys, with Doval, Devin Williams, and with David Bednar, I don't think you should really have and throw Luke Weaver into that mix too, because he's just as good as anyone when he's really on it. So
yeah,
I think that
on
with
any given night it can be the situation where it's like, no, well, this situation calls for Doval, we're just going to him right now. We can use Devin Williams here, we're going to him in the 8th.
That's what I mean. Have your best pitcher face your best guys, regardless of what inning it is, because I think you're gonna have times where, I think David Bednar, he's had, pretty much every closer has had those hiccups. But David Bednar, he does feel like a candidate as someone who, the moment he gets traded, because he did have he had a 1.7 ERA, 16 saves, and 50 strikeouts over his last 40 appearances for the Pirates. But it does feel like you're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, because you've seen the volatility of David Bednar. So admittedly, he wasn't who I wanted, but when you supplement that also with Doval, and you also add Jake Bird from Colorado, who his numbers are not his numbers aren't. Now his numbers aren't fantastic, but I think that they're a little skewed because it's Colorado, and also I don't think they're going to be asking him to come in in the highest of high leverage situations.
Yeah, he might be like your new Wandy Peralta. I would have to think.
Yeah.
We're not using our A guys, but we need somebody.
Yeah, and then speaking of not A guys, I mean, you do still have Mark Leiter Jr. and Fernando Cruz coming back from injuries. I
was going to ask, do you feel like that they're going to jettison Mark Leiter Jr. from here? Because I know you're not very high on him. So I was
I'm not too high on him. I don't think they jettison him because they were kind of hyping up that he could be back. That he could be coming back fairly soon. For this run to the playoffs. So they were hyping him up that he could be back soon. So I don't think they're going to jettison him. They were kind of using that line getting a guy back from injury is kind of making a deadline acquisition, which I can't stand when teams do that. I think it's
Andy Alderson special.
Yeah, no, I think actually you're a fucking loser if you think that, but that's neither here nor there. But they were kind of I think that when you make the moves to bolster your pen and you have those guys coming back, it's a little more acceptable. So I don't think he gets jettisoned, but I think that he's not going to see as many high leverage situations. I think he's more of a mop-up guy, or a guy who comes in maybe he's someone who comes in early in the game if the starter can't go too long for whatever reason.
It's similar to our situation. This probably moves everybody down a couple of rungs in terms of the depth chart. And you mentioned Fernando Cruz. I don't know how you feel about him, but it did seem like he had some pretty good stretches earlier in the year. And now, if Fernando Cruz is your first guy out of the, say the starter goes 5, just doesn't have a bad outing, but as I'm very well familiar with, your starter throws 95 pitches in 5 innings, and well, he just has to come out.
That's it.
Like, are you good with Fernando Cruz being the first guy they call now?
Yeah. I think sorry, that was a cough, not a laugh, but I do think that Fernando Cruz is I do think Fernando Cruz is like fine in that role. I actually do kind of like him. So, he throws super hard. He's one of the few Yankee relievers that can just blow by bats rather than pitching the contact and manufacturing outs. Like he's like a true he is a true power pitcher in that sense. So I do like Fernando Cruz and like his upside, and I think that if you're in a situation where he's like your 5th or 6th inning guy, I think that you're in a pretty decent, you're in pretty decent shape as long as you can keep the game close leading up to that. So they do have him, they do have those two guys in the bullpen coming back. They also have Luis Gil coming back from injury fairly soon. He should be making his season debut probably sometime this month, I would imagine. It does sound like he's pretty close. It does sound like he's pretty close to coming back. So, and then you also have the emergence of Cam Schlittler. So all of a sudden you do have a lot of flexibility. Like there hasn't even been some talk of moving Schlittler to the pen. I don't know if I don't know if I do that, at least not now. Maybe in the playoffs when you only have a 3 or 4 man rotation, then maybe you move Schlittler there. But I think I like him more as a starter.
I mean, it's one of those things where I guess if you were to shake out a playoff rotation just for like a 5-game series, obviously Fried's your 1, Rodon's your 2. If Luis Gil's able to build himself up and you get to the end of September and go, all right, you know what? We could probably have him go 5 or 6 innings in a playoff game. Like that's your 3 right there. So
yeah,
I guess it comes down to, are you comfortable with Cam Schlittler being your game 4 starter? And then like, say you were in a game 7 scenario and it's like, all right, bullpen kind of beat up, starter just came out, Schlittler's the first guy we're calling. Like, are you comfortable?
He's kind of the guy that has to go. I think I could live with that because, guys who throw as hard as he does, and like he does have some work to do with his command, but I think that is something that's very fixable. Because like his command isn't terrible, but it could definitely be better. And I think that once his command does get better, I think he will. I think he'll be able to go even deeper into games, which is why I would keep him as a starter and not put him in the pen. But I do think that in a shortened series, there is a situation. I think as long as we're not down 3-0, just because like you don't know what you're gonna get. Even if we're down 3-0 and there's no one else who can go but Schlittler, like. I could think of worse situations to be in. So, yeah, I think at least for now, I would say definitely just leave him as a starter unless things kind of shake out in a way where where it makes too much sense to make him to just make him like a bullpen pitcher or a long reliever. Yeah, and then
thoughts on what they gave. I know we talked about what the Yankees sent to Pittsburgh for Bednar. Were any of the names that you sent for Camilo Doval? Was there anything where you're like, all right, it's Camilo Doval, we make that deal, but that one would have liked to have kept him? Was there any of those?
For me, no, not really. Who did we give up for Doval again? We gave up 4 prospects, so.
Jesus Rodriguez, Tristan Vreiling, Parks Harbor, and Carlos De La Rosa.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing about any of those guys that we gave up that upsets me at all, honestly.
I know people don't necessarily swear by the MLB pipeline rankings, but I'm looking at the Giants top 30 now, and they update pretty quickly after trades. I am not seeing any of these names on their top 30, so
yeah, that's okay there. Yeah, that's fine with me. They must have a much deeper prospect pool than we do because Tristan Vreeling was our number 19 prospect. Jesus Rodriguez was 25, and then like Parks Harbor and Carlos De La Rosa were not even ranked. So yeah, no, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't scoff at that trade for a second, and I feel like that was obviously it was the last second kind of unexpected buzzer beater move at like 5:59 p.m. But yeah, to add someone like to add a Camilo Doval to your to your rotation or to your bullpen, like because I mean someone who can throw almost 105 miles per hour, or at least he did like when he first came into the league. I mean he still throws pretty damn hard. So to be able to add someone like that to just, bolster your pen that much more, which obviously is something that every team in contention is looking for. And considering the pricing, considering the pricing that some of these other relievers went for, like, Mason Miller, I'd say that I think I'd prefer to make that deal for Camilo Doval than what the Mets gave up for Helsley. Or for not for Helsley, but for Tyler Rogers.
Well, I am looking at again. I know people have said like MLB Pipeline's not the definitive ranking, but
yeah, definitely not the end all be all.
They have Blade Tidwell 12th and Drew Gilbert 13th in the Giants' top 30. So
yeah, so I mean,
Drew Gilbert, I want to say I think he might have been outside our top 10 before yesterday. So
yeah. I mean, I think both pitchers are going to be, I think, great fits for their respective teams. Again, hopefully these aren't.
Jesus Baez, who was the big name going back for Helsley, he's number 6, which he's been pretty good. I do have to give them that. Try to see who else. Joshua Baez wasn't ours. Nate Dome was one of the pitchers. He's 15th. Try to see who the other. Wow, Ellis Salt's not on there. That's interesting. I would have thought for sure he would have been in. He was really good. I guess if there's anything. I do see a name in here. That reminds me. I feel like not only did the Yankees at least ostensibly upgrade their bullpen and they addressed their base, but Red Sox.
Oh well. Oh, he mad. He wanted Joe Kelly. He wanted not Joe Kelly.
Joe Ryan.
Joe Ryan money, but he wanted Joe Ryan, but he didn't have Joe Ryan money. So Dustin May it is.
That's another story that you need to have Kev bring up, that he's been in our league where I think Mike Trout was once traded for Dustin May, to the point that I think the league was called the Dustin May Invitational for multiple years. And now
wow.
And the Red Sox gave up the guy who was the draft pick last year for the Giants that went in the Devers trade. He was in this trade.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I saw that. So yeah, so much for the Red Sox. Yeah, so much for reinvesting. The money that you got off the books with Devers at the deadline.
Hey, we're investing that for Alexander Isak, baby.
Yeah,
I think baby.
Yeah, I think the real move that the other like kind of buzzer beater move that also like really I'd say this one might have been the most surprising move. I mean, obviously getting Doval at the actual legit deadline is pretty shocking, because I don't think at any point the Yankees were like linked to him. Like I think the Mets were linked to Doval at a point at a decent point in time. There was
talk right after the series against the Giants that apparently there were talks last weekend that they were trying to make that happen, which
like they were basically
that'd be great. I'd do that.
Yeah, they were basically trying to get Camilo Doval on the plane with them.
Would have been fun with that. That's also where I feel bad for Jose Budo. The Mets play the Giants this weekend. I'm guessing he flew with them back to New York.
With the Giants or with the
well,
it's in San Fran.
No, it's in New York.
So you think he flew with the Giants or with the Mets?
No, I think he flew back home with the Mets. I would think.
Yeah. No, I hope they did do that.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if he had to like go up to San Fran for like, paperwork reasons or anything like that.
True.
to get,
medical.
get processed get the physical and all that. But honestly, it would be cool if they let him, fly back with the Mets. Like, if there's one sad part of the trade deadline, it is seeing players like say goodbye to their friends.
Oh, it wasn't quite the Wilmer moment, but it was.
No,
You
it was right
they
up
kept
there.
cutting to the bullpen, and he was very much wearing it.
Yeah, I saw the video. Yeah, he was definitely wearing it. He was definitely sad. I mean, I remember the bullpen. Was it the bullpen catcher or like the bullpen coach who was kind of like rubbing his leg? I mean,
yeah, I think that was Dave Raccanello, the bullpen catcher who's been there forever. Who's one of David Wright's closest friends, as it turns out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember they showed him leaving for a minute. I'm guessing he probably left for a minute to go like let it out, because then he came back and it's like, oh, okay. He was probably
because I remember they were saying like, oh well, at that point I remember them saying like, because he like left to go do whatever, and then he came back and they're saying, oh, like maybe it's because it's like not official yet or something.
And then he was in the dugout, and that's when everyone's like, okay, so
yeah,
it is.
No, it would be cool if they let him, give him one last cross country flight with the boys before he, takes on this new.
They already booked his ticket. it was
like either way, you're all going to you're all like going to the same place.
Yeah,
just do the paperwork when you get back to New York. Take the physical in New York.
And it was a similar situation to Wilmer in that, he'd been with the Mets since he was 19 years old. So that's, and this is the human element of things where it's like that guy probably learned how to be an adult living here. Like, those guys, like, they all come here and everybody is counting on that. Like, all his friends and family back home are like hoping that he makes it big. And then it's like he's here by himself. He probably starts out in like the complex leagues where there's literally nobody watching. And he had turned himself into a useful player on a team trying to win a World Series. Like whatever people think of Jose Butto, like I would bet you anything that he would say right now he made it. And I would bet you all the people back home would say, yeah, our guy made the major leagues. We won.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mets fans will give him like a warm welcome, like whenever he makes his first appearance at Citi Field as a Giant.
He doesn't pitch this weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rest of the way, I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, so getting Doval was definitely a surprise, because like there was just no real link. But I think maybe the most surprising move the Yankees made was getting Jose Caballero from the Rays.
Yeah. Just
because of the way, now I don't know what the plan is for Jose Caballero. Volpe obviously has been basically pretty much like a roller coaster of a player as of late. I mean, he has 5 home runs and 6 errors in his last 12 games. So he's averaging he's averaging almost 1 activity per game. So I don't know what the plan is. Obviously the Yankees, both Boone and Cashman have been like very vocal of their support for Anthony Volpe. And obviously like, he is like, behind all the errors and being hated by the fan base. He is very quietly, hitting the ball pretty well right now. He had a 452 home run to right center the other night. He had the huge home run last night to tie that game and keep it going after Devin Williams blew the save. So I'm not sure what the plan is. I think they would be wise. And, I was definitely like, if you want to be serious, like you probably should address shortstop in some way at the deadline. I wasn't sure what that looked like. And Jose Caballero certainly wasn't the name that came to mind. But I mean, the fact that they actually went and got a shortstop when you've had Cashman. Cashman doesn't speak to the media a lot, but you have him come out and be very vocal about, you have him being very vocal that, you're all going to look stupid as hell for all the shit you're talking about Anthony Volpe. And then you had Boone come out the other night wearing like an Anthony Volpe t-shirt. I forget if that was like a press conference or if that was for like the John Boy show or whatever it was, but he was wearing the Anthony Volpe t-shirt as like a sign of, like how much faith he had in the guy. And, like I think pretty much since Boone became the manager, in a lot of ways, he's been a puppet for Brian Cashman. And they've seemed pretty much like in lockstep about a lot of things. And obviously you want that cohesiveness, like no matter what sport, you want that cohesiveness at the top of your organization. You want your coach and your GM to be, to be working cohesively. But at the same time, if there's like a player that, if there's a player like Anthony Volpe where it's very obvious that there's a problem, and I think they are wise to prepare for this hot streak that he's on at the plate. I think it would be wise to prepare for that to eventually wear off. And, maybe he's not hitting like 198 again, and maybe he's not going the entire month of July without hitting a fastball until like yesterday. But, I think you wait for him to fall somewhere in the middle, and you got to kind of prepare for him, I think, to fall on probably closer to the bad side of that than the good side. So it was kind of the first moment where I thought to myself, like, oh, like maybe they aren't exactly like in agreement that they're just gonna ride Volpe out for the year. Like, so I think Caballero's probably more of a bench piece. He's a utility guy. He can play basically every position in the infield aside from first, but obviously first base, I think is not really a need. I guess they could have stood to add a little bit of depth at first base just because Paul Goldschmidt has been pretty bad since pretty bad like for the past like 3 months now, if we're being real.
That it was
like
surprising when I
he
checked in and I saw
off.
a lot of Yankee fans were like, "Yeah, the Paul Goldschmidt ride might be done." I was like, "Really?" And
Yeah, like he fell off pretty badly, and now JC Escara got sent down to like make room for like the acquisitions that they made. So Ben Rice is the backup catcher at the moment as well.
Oh,
so
boy.
Maybe you want one more first baseman on the roster to kind
Although
of
McMahon can play first.
What's that?
McMahon, I think, has played first. So you could even do it something where it's like, if you feel comfortable playing Caballero at third, you could just move McMahon across the diamond. I don't know what his defensive numbers are at first, but he's someone who can do it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, and I mean Caballero, he definitely doesn't have as much power as Volpe, but I think that he's definitely more serviceable in the field than Volpe right now. Volpe leads the league in errors. So maybe he's someone who comes off the bench as a defensive replacement for Volpe, or if Volpe's slumping, maybe he takes over the job entirely.
He's someone that I think initially, maybe to casual fans, it's like, oh, well, it's that guy on the Rays that hits like 230. He steals a bunch of bags, but it's like, no, you need someone that can defensively handle all of the positions on the infield and be a late game defensive replacement.
Yeah,
or I think most Yankee fans would agree, you're not the fastest team in the league. I say that as someone who also is not the fastest team in the league, but having a guy like that where it's, all right, Stanton gets on and we've got a chance to win the game here in the ninth. All right, we're going to put somebody on.
Pinch runner.
We're going to put Caballero on as the pinch runner.
Yeah, someone like that. You got to have, like you do still have to have like that guy that you can bring off the bench, like to pinch run, defensive substitution, whatever the case may be, or someone goes down with an injury. You need that type of depth piece. I mean, obviously, like his hitting numbers are not gonna, they're not gonna like jump out at you, but he's a serviceable major league player. He adds depth to the team, and obviously defense. I mean, how much have I been screaming about how bad our defense is for the past 2 months? So, I mean, we give up Everson Pereira for him, but Everson Pereira really wasn't doing anything here anyway. So, I'm perfectly fine with that. Overall, I would say I give, like I was a little underwhelmed at first, but after seeing everything that we did, Cashman kind of cooked this deadline. I would say this is the best deadline he's had probably since I think this is the best deadline Cashman has had since 2017.
Real quickly, my friend Tyler used to have a theory that the Yankees used to have Luis Sojo as a minor league manager, but secretly they were doing it just in the event that they ever needed to call him up. They had him on the payroll anyway. They could just bring him in. like Caballero is the Luis Sojo role. It's like, man, how he end up? How did Luis Sojo have 3 big hits this series? What the fuck?
Yeah, no, your boy might be onto something there, actually. Like maybe Luis Sojo was maybe Luis Sojo was like the emergency call up manager that every team needs to succeed.
This is me just learning right now for the first time that the Brewers added Shelby Miller, and oh boy, that's a nice add for them.
Yeah, but I'd give. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Brewers are just great at making bullpens out of thin air, and they already had a good one anyway. And Shelby Miller's been awesome this year, so that's something.
Oh yeah, I guess Shelby Miller has had a bit of a renaissance year, but yeah, no, I do give Cashman his flowers. He did a great job this deadline, and I feel like I think the only things that I could like knock him for that he didn't get was like the only thing I would have really asked for that we didn't get was another starting pitcher, but it seems like the starting pitcher market kind of hit a stalemate at the deadline. Like Mitch Keller didn't get moved. Joe Ryan.
Who was the best pitcher that got dealt? Was it Merrill Kelly?
I think Merrill Kelly. I think Merrill Kelly was the best starter that got moved.
Oh, Shane Bieber got dealt, but he's also coming back from Tommy John. So
he hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't pitched since the beginning of last year, and he hasn't pitched like a full season since 22 or 23.
Zach Littell's good. I'd say Merrill Kelly's better than him.
Yeah, they're both kind of in that. They're both kind of in that similar tier. Like they're not. Neither of them are really like aces.
No, I don't think any team I think the Reds got Zach Littell, and I know they're pushing for a playoff spot, but I don't think anyone's here is like, oh, well, that changes Cincinnati's chances. No, it's good to have. You like having a guy who's having a good year, but I don't think that changes their fortune.
No, yeah, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't truly. They didn't truly move the needle at the deadline, but I do think the Yankees moved the needle a good bit. You still gotta wait and see how it plays out, but I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better now after taking 3 out of 4 against the Rays, who I know the Rays have had their struggles, but it kind of looked like at the beginning of the series, it kind of looked like, oh, well, if the Rays needed to get right, they ran into us at the right time. So I feel a lot better after that and after the moves they made today. Cease didn't get moved either. So, yeah, there were a lot of rumored to be traded starting pitchers, like ace caliber pitchers that didn't get moved. So,
now the world's upside down. The Marlins have 2 starting pitchers who I know we've talked about Sandy Alcantara, but there were teams who won him. So they had 2 starting pitchers who would have definitely changed the race for somebody had they got them and didn't get moved. What world are we in?
Yeah.
The Marlins are like, you know what? We're good.
Yeah, the Marlins were like, we're the Gucci store and you can't afford us.
Edward Cabrera was definitely on the list of guys where I was like, if we swing a trade for him, great. I would love to have him. Brandon Lau was a guy that we were getting linked to that I would have liked. Said Camilo Doval. So I can't even do the Met thing and make fun of the Yankee moves where it's like, no, I really wanted Camilo Doval. That would have.
Yeah.
I'm happy with what we got, but yeah, Doval's good. I can't hate that.
Yeah. Supposedly the Yankees were engaged with the Marlins to get either Cabrera or Sandy Alcantara. they were asking for, they allegedly did ask for Spencer Jones in those deals. Now, Edward Cabrera, if it's Edward Cabrera, and depending on how much team control he's under, I'd maybe consider it.
I want to say he debuted in 23, so I think he's got 3 or 4 more years of team control. He's 22 or 23 was his debut year.
Yeah, I think he's got a few. He's got like 3 more. He's got 3 more arbitration years. So he's not a UFA till the 2029 season. So they would have had him under control. So like I consider it, but yeah, I think like I kind of agree with this, and maybe this ages poorly, but I do kind of agree with the sentiment like that the Yankees seem to have for Spencer Jones. Like as far as some people being more touchable than others, AO, like whatever that meant. But apparently they were only going to trade Spencer Jones for Paul Skeens, who wasn't even available. And, I think the only other guy that I would make Spencer Jones touchable for would have been someone like a Jose Ramirez. So all things considered, the Yankees kind of, you could maybe say they kind of shopped in the bargain aisle with a few of their deals, but I think overall they still found a way to vastly improve their team and address a lot of weaknesses. And I feel pretty good about where we're at now, heading into the stretch run. It's August now, so they should be finally learning, remembering how to play baseball again. So I give Cashman an A- for this deadline.
Cabrera, I do think, is the guy that, and depending on what your view of Spencer Jones is, and I understand that, but I do think Cabrera is the guy that if you were going to make a trade for, maybe more than Alcantara. I know I said Sandy was the guy that I looked for, but Cabrera is a guy that I've had my eye on since he debuted, because he was one of those guys that came up through the system. And if nothing else, the Marlins have gotten really good at developing young pitchers. And so I kind of had been watching him since he came up, and he was very clearly one of those guys that immediately you saw, okay, if he can just cut the walks out, that's a number 1 or a number 2 at worst.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying he's Jose Fernandez, but that is definitely a guy who can lead the front of your rotation. He just has to get the walks under control. And it was always like every other start, it felt like you'd see 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. And you're like, oh, he's here. Next start, 3 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, 6 walks, 4 strikeouts. He's got the walks under control. He turned 27 this season. Maybe he's figured it out. I know Alcantara has the Cy Young, and he's been around longer, so he has more name recognition. Edward Cabrera might take that jump next year, and it wouldn't shock me.
I could definitely see it. He could be like a good sleeper for next year's Cy Young. And I did get to a point too with Alcantara where it's like, man, you want to give up Spencer Jones for like this guy with a 6 ERA, where it got to a point where it's like, honestly, it seems like the issues run deeper than just he pitches for the Marlins. So I'm perfectly okay with not making that deal. Sometimes the best deal is the one that you don't make. So yeah, I give the Yankees an A-, and let's fucking get it now. We play I believe we play, who do we play this weekend? We play the Marlins this weekend, and then we play Texas next week, which Texas has worked their way back into they've worked their way back into the playoff picture, where they actually they're not going to hold it anymore because Seattle's going to beat them, and they'll be like a game or a half a game back. But they were in a position where they were tied for the last wild card spot.
This is going to be an interesting weekend for you guys, because you'll see Edward Cabrera on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be Heel's debut, actually, is Sunday.
And then on Saturday, Yuri Perez, which people forgot about because he had Tommy John early 24. He looked good in 23. I have him in multiple dynasty leagues. He's starting to come along. I think his first 2 or 3 starts, it was hey, just get your feet back underneath you, just get used to pitching again. His last time out, he looked sharp. Like the Yuri Perez that we saw 2 years ago might just be back. And that's another one where it's like, man, if the Marlins just ever decided to keep any of these guys, whew,
yeah, and they had Schlittler going. They have Schlittler going up against him, and then tomorrow night or tonight, by the time you're watching this, you got Rodon going up against Junk, and as good as the vibes are right now after this deadline, if we lose to Junk, then
that can't happen.
We're gonna be right back in hell if we don't do well against Junk tomorrow.
Immediately, I'm thinking of Major League, just the mound visit. Skip, I'm throwing every piece of junk I can think of up there.
Yeah. So,
related question: does it make you a little bit nervous that the Astros got Carlos Correa back because you guys might see them in the playoffs?
Yeah, it definitely does. Great segue. We'll go around the league. So it was a wild trade deadline overall. Looking around the league and, outside of New York, the Astros got Carlos Correa back. So basically, Al Qaeda got Osama bin Laden back. That's pretty much how I feel in that one.
But this is also how I feel when the Braves keep trading for every other guy from 2021. I feel the same.
Yeah, I'm definitely worried about the Astros. I mean, I would have been worried about having to play the Astros even without Correa, but the fact that he's back just makes it that much more, not fun. So yeah, I'm definitely not thrilled. Definitely not thrilled about that. I don't know how the Twins are gonna play the rest of their season because Byron Buxton he said I'm exercising my no move clause. Minnesota's where I want to be, and you guys stuck with me through injury, so I'm sticking with you. And they just decided, all right, we'll just trade literally everyone else.
And Byron, on behalf of David Stearns and the New York Mets organization, to quote the greatest singer-songwriter of the 21st century, Michelle Branch, if you want to, we can save you. We can take you away from here.
He don't want to be saved, which is
you deserve better than this.
Yeah,
you deserve ownership that will pay players.
He does, but I guess he doesn't realize it yet. So there's no helping people that don't want the help.
Oh, speaking of the Red Sox, I feel like it also would make your day to know that they traded for Steven Matz.
Yes, I did see that. Yes, I did see that, and I definitely laughed when I saw that. I was like, "Oh, that's cute." The Red Sox think they're gonna pass us in the standings or beat us in a playoff series, but you were going after Joe Ryan, and you end up with Steven Matz and Dustin May. For all the hooting and hollering I did about shopping in the bargain bin, they were shopping on Temu, the Red Sox.
And they traded Blaze Jordan to do it. That one I could see the Cardinals actually making out like bandits on. Blaze Jordan has 80 grade power. Even I know about that. So what does that say?
It's also we also welcomed cash considerations to our team for Carlos Carrasco. The YRFI God is on the move yet again. He's going to Atlanta. He actually pitched for Atlanta today, but
what a wild ass game, by the way.
That was a wild game in which the YRFI somehow the YRFI did not hit in that game, but it was there were no runs in the first inning, but it was a 12-11 Braves win. The Reds scored 8 runs in the 8th inning to tie it. And
after the Braves had scored 8 runs in the top of the 8th inning. It was 3-3 when the 8th inning started, and it was 11-11 when it ended.
Yes. That's insane. Yeah, and then
also, Brian Hayes homered first game for the Reds.
Yeah, Key Brian Hayes might be turning into evil Key Brian Hayes because he hit a home run, but he also made a very costly error. One that
I didn't know that.
Yeah, one that might actually have ended up. I'm not sure exactly where he made the error, but I heard that he did make an error, and it very well might have ended up like being, you know, the difference in the game. So yeah, he might be evil Key Brian Hayes now, but yeah, the Reds also had a pretty you know, they had a pretty interesting deadline. You know, we touched on how they got Zach Littell, and they also you know, they also got Key Brian Hayes, and what I thought was actually a pretty good move for the Pirates. Pirates fans are not happy about the return for David Bednar, and I don't really blame them for not being happy about that, because obviously I'm very happy about you know, all things considered. And like I said before, like he was not my first choice, and you know, I'm kind of waiting for that shoe to drop with Bednar. He's a prime candidate for the Fell For It Again award type of player. But yeah, but I thought that the Pirates actually did pretty good with the Key Brian Hayes trade. They got a 34-year-old reliever, which is whatever, but
the other Rogers.
Yeah, but they also got you know, they also got like one of their top 10 prospects, Sammy Stafora. So, you know, to turn Key Brian Hayes into a top 10 prospect, like, you know, something of value, I think is you know, and not have to and they don't have to retain any of the salary. I think that trade was a win for the Pirates. It was definitely, I think, more of a seller's market, although, you know, but that it was a seller's market, but like it didn't stop teams from like making the big moves. Obviously, I think the biggest move was, you know, the biggest deal was probably the Padres getting Mason Miller. You know, for they got Mason Miller for Eduardo Nunez
and Leo DeVries, that's the big. My first
thought
Leo
DeVries is like the number three overall prospect in baseball.
It was one of those things where you don't see everything right away, and I just see Padres acquired Mason Miller, and I was like, oh, that's big. And then I'm like, all right, what did they move? And it's like Leo DeVries. Like, they moved Leo DeVries?
Yeah, it's like, damn, you moved Leo DeVries for a reliever? Like, yeah, I don't know
how good he is. That's
yeah, I don't know if I would do that. Yeah, and
like
Mason Miller was the best closer that was like on the market, but goddamn.
But if you're the A's, you have to take that. Like you can always find a lights out closer. Like
yeah, I'm sure they will pump another one out soon.
Yeah, now you have a core of Kurtz, Soderstrom, Rooker. DeVries should probably be up within 2 years at the very most. Jacob Wilson's got to be feeling pretty tough here because in May, everyone just had him put in pen for AL Rookie of the Year. And now he's not even the best rookie on his own team. And he might be moving positions pretty soon. Like, that's shit comes at you fast.
Yeah, no, life
does come at you fast. They got Butler. Like, this, all of a sudden, like, that's not so bad.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty that's a pretty good team. One I think that should be hitting their stride like right as they move to Vegas is like when they should like really get good.
Provided they do it. There are still a lot of people that are very skeptical that it ever happens. And before I read into it, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know what the latest update is on that, but it seems like if they do move to Vegas, that they should have a very good team by the time it happens. I kind of hope that maybe it falls through and they got to find a way back to Oakland.
Also, I mean, that's ideally where I stand on that. The Astros.
Yeah, I do hope they go to Oakland where they truly belong.
We do talk about the Astros getting Correa back, and that's worrisome just for the fact of we know Correa is a big game player. But part of the reason they had to make that move was because Isaac Paredes is probably done for the season.
Yeah, and Jeremy Pena is still like rehabbing.
Well, I think he's going to be back at some point this weekend, but still, I mean, Paredes. We talked about
Correa. I think they're going to have Correa play third.
Yes, yeah, Correa will be the short filling in for Paredes. We assume for the remainder of the season, and we talked about at the start of the year that Well, you're going to have Paredes hitting with the Crawford boxes in Houston. His power numbers are going to take a jump, and he's already pretty good.
Oh yeah,
That happened. I believe Paredes was an all-star this year, so he was absolutely hitting like one.
Yeah.
They went and added Jesus Sanchez, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he is the definition of a starting outfielder. Like you can have him start in your outfield if you're a contending team. And it's like, okay, you can get by with him being out there.
Yeah.
Like that, it doesn't hurt to add him to a team if you're trying to win. And the Astros are definitely in it.
Yeah, no, and then we did also touch on the Eugenio Suarez deal, which ended up being not a whole lot, like only one top 10 prospect from the Mariners. I'm not sure exactly where they rank on the Diamondbacks prospect pool now, but yeah, definitely a bit of an underwhelming return. And now you're looking at like a heart of a Mariners lineup. I mean, you're watching that game right now, or you have that game on.
It just ended.
Yeah, it just ended 6-0.
They added Josh Naylor too, and apparently they did not give up any of their top 10 prospects for him either. So
so you got a heart of your order of Rosarena, Julio Rodriguez, who has gotten better. I know we were kind of talking shit on him for how he got into the All-Star game, and maybe he probably didn't deserve it, but I mean,
you would bank on him coming out of that.
To his credit, his OPS is now in the 7s, so it's like a lot more respectable. Obviously Cal Raleigh, 42 home runs now. Rosarena still having a very good year. So, you look at the Mariners lineup, and all of a sudden that looks like a pretty serious lineup. And I think if you combine that, if they can get their rotation kind of back to like where it was, I mean, George Kirby, I mean, he had a pretty good outing tonight, but he's been plagued by injuries this year.
I don't think Bryce Miller's close to coming back. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Miller's still a ways off. Logan Gilbert,
pretty good.
Yeah, he's still pretty solid. Like, if that rotation can kind of get back to like what it once was, then you're actually, I think the Mariners are like the fell for it again award team, but you're starting to enter, falling for it again territory.
Well, I mean, a top 3 of Wu, Gilbert, and Castillo is pretty good.
Yeah.
My only concern would be we know what the Mariners like home run instrument is. It's the Trident. I don't know if you necessarily want to put that in the hands of Josh Naylor, given what we know.
Yeah, probably not.
That could be scary hours, and not in the good way.
Yeah. It's real scary hours in Seattle in more ways than one. But if I'm a Mariners fan, I'm probably focusing on how scary our lineup, how scary that lineup looks now. You had Johan Duran going to the Phillies for Eduardo Tate and Mick Abel. So,
those were 2 high prospects for them.
Yeah, Abel is their number 2 prospect. Well, he kind of fell off to number 6, but still looking really good in AAA. At 23 years old, and then Tate was is their 18-year-old catcher who has some pop in his bat, and he was their number 4 prospect. So that's a pretty hefty, obviously that bolsters the Phillies bullpen and makes it a lot more formidable. But that definitely that's definitely a hefty price to pay for a reliever.
Well, and worth noting, they'll still have Matt Strahm to be sure, so they will have a definite lefty option if they get to the postseason. But they won't have Jose Alvarado, because I know he's about to be back from his suspension, but he's ineligible for the playoffs. So I don't remember them getting a lefty reliever at any point this month. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah. Now, Grant. Yeah, they still don't really have a lefty reliever. Like Matt Strom is probably still their best lefty reliever, and honestly, I don't think Matt Strom is all that good.
I think the shine's come off him, especially because we were able to get to him in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I think that kind of made the wheels, start to fall off for him.
And they did upgrade on Brandon Marsh with better looking Brandon Marsh and Harrison Bader. And
yeah,
actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. Harrison Bader was a big part of last year. I'm not going to call him better looking Brandon Marsh. He's a better player.
Yeah, he deserves a little more respect than that. Yeah, you also had the Padres getting Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano in a haul for six prospects. Doesn't seem like they gave. Yeah, it doesn't seem like they gave up anything too crazy. And I just saw that the Rays got Griffin Jacks. I didn't realize that they did that. So it's like if you're the Rays, like, are you buying or are you selling? What are you doing here?
And related in that deal, and I don't know how much you play fantasy baseball, Chris, or if you play Dynasty.
I don't have any Dynasty teams, but I have one team with two keepers. I have two teams.
But boy,
I try to check the lineup every day.
I was a Taj Bradley believer for at least 2 years before he came up.
Damn.
Wow. I mean, this is last chance saloon here. If he can't fix it in Minnesota, that. Oof.
Yeah, that's a big yikes. This is probably like
this year, he would have like a 10 strikeout start, and you're like, okay, it's happening. And then he walked the ballpark in the next one, and here we are.
This is probably his last chance. I didn't even mention the Austin Slater trade that the Yankees made. That was another kind of surprising move. Like, I didn't really think the Yankees would trade for an outfielder because they had kind of a logjam in the outfield as it is. Because like there are people saying, "Oh, just call up Spencer Jones," which I don't want to make the mistake of like calling prospects up too soon. Like I think they got to be careful with Spencer Jones, but I think like the way their roster is constructed, he should definitely be up next year. Trent Grisham will be gone, but I mean, there was a point where I thought we were going to sell off Trent Grisham, but now we have Austin Slater. He's a righty who can mash against righties and has a very good OPS against righties, so that's definitely something we needed too. So.
Well, I imagine a lot of that has to be related to the Judge injury, right? Like now you're going to have to – they've talked about him being a DH or at least getting some time at DH when he comes back.
Yeah, they said, that when he first comes back, he'll be DH. I'm not sure how long. Like when he came off the when he came off the IL or when he comes off the IL, he's supposed to be able to DH like right away. But you never know with Judge when he does get hurt. It does seem like he gets. It does seem like he ends up like I wouldn't be surprised if he misses more time than they led to believe, because the timeline has him back. The timeline for the 10-day IL would have him, eligible to come back on Monday when we play Texas. So I guess he could be eligible to DH then, but. They definitely shouldn't rush him back, especially if you're still winning without him. But, maybe Aaron Judge was the problem. I don't know. But no, when, you definitely got to be careful because obviously he's someone who has a history of injuries and he is your team. So
it's interesting to bring this up because I was having a discussion about this with one of my Braves friends last night because Acuna was kind of in a similar situation where you have to listen to those guys. And like Judge said, he brought it. If I'm speaking out of turn, please tell me. But I think Judge had basically relayed like, yeah, I don't feel, something's a little off when I throw. That should have set the alarm bells off. Like, all right, hey, you got the rest of this night off.
We got they left him in the game after that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we got a day game tomorrow. All right, take that one off, man. You're good. Because part of what, and this is true for hitters and pitchers especially, but in any era, a manager has to be one of his main priorities is you have to protect these guys from themselves sometimes. Like
Yeah.
these guys don't get to this place by taking it easy or cutting corners. They're always going to believe that they can play no matter what and that they can be great. Like that is how they're conditioned. Sometimes you have to get in front of them and be like, you're not moving well. You don't look right.
Yeah. Like, you
You're
got to
not
be
losing your job. Just take a couple days off. That's what you have
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. Like, you're not losing your job. We're not going to lose we're not going to lose a playoff spot, hopefully, while you're gone. Like,
Right.
We'd rather have you get right. We also had a player get traded to an opponent during a doubleheader with Sir Anthony Dominguez. Shades of 2012 Ichiro with the Mariners and the Yankees.
It was also it had the additional comedy of I don't know if you saw a picture of him actually pitch for the Blue Jays in the second game, but he wears 58, and somebody noticed
the upside down 8, right?
Yeah, people were like, "Wow, that looks weird," and they're like, "They only had but so much time to get the jersey right. Like this was the best they could do." Like,
yeah, and it is Fanatics, so of course they fucked that up.
All they could do.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think that for the most part, I think covers like the more significant trades and what's been a pretty, a very active trade deadline. I mean, a few other, just not so much notable, but I guess shits and giggles kind of moves. I mean, the Padres got Nestor Cortez. I did not realize that. Miguel Andujar is now a Red. So
still in the league.
Yeah, still in the league. I hope to see him, hit a home run very soon.
Your pick of the Tigers making the World Series as the AL representative, looking good. I would have even said, given the Tigers' recent slump, like, okay, better to have it now than in September. There was, and they had built up enough of a lead to correct it. I cannot seriously entertain a team being in the
unserious deadline. Yeah.
You added Rafael Montero and Paul Sewald. No, you're out.
Yeah,
you're out.
Yeah, no, that's if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And if all the teams around you are getting better. Yeah, so that's that was an unserious deadline. Shout outs to who's your friend Sean, the Tigers
my friend Tyler.
Tyler the Tiger.
Well, it's funny because the way yesterday unfolded, like he sends me the Gregory Soto trade, and of course Gregory Soto was a Tiger first.
Yeah.
He sends me the emoji of the guy with like the monocle and then the one with like the one eyebrow raised. He's like, good luck with that. And then the Montero and Sewald deals come down today, and I just sent him back like, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, good luck with Paul Sewald.
That was the only good thing that came out of the 23 World Series was everybody else was like, man, Paul Sewald's really turned it around. And the entire time I've been screaming, no, he's Paul Sewald. He's always been bad.
Yeah.
And then game 1 happened. I was like, see?
Yeah. You're seeing him on the grandest stage.
On that Summer Jam screen.
We touched on the Merrill Kelly trade a little. We had your boy Phil Maton is now a I just saw it. He got moved though.
Surprised they didn't go back to him.
Yeah, he's Phil Maton is now a Texas Ranger. He got moved for like 3 pitchers or 2 pitchers in cash.
Huh. Oh, I mean, a part of also why the Buto thing happened was there was going to be a roster crunch coming. So it was, they've been big on all year on like options. So it was like, well, yeah, they're going to add guys to the bullpen, sure, but like somebody's going to have to go. They're and I guess Buto had been a DFA candidate because he was out of options, and I don't think they could have done that with Stanek or with Reed Garrett because he's been up enough now. But yeah, like Phil Maton would have been another thing where it's like, all right, well, who are you getting rid of? So that makes sense. And sometimes you just got to have guys for 1 year. Like sometimes you can't run it back.
Yeah. We also got Ahmed Rosario for the Vibes. He's our bald bearded king. He looks like the ultimate vibes acquisition, and I'm just throwing it out there. The Yankees and the Mets had the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever.
Listen. Again, I heard for 2.5 solid years that we lost the deal because, look what Rosario and Jimenez are doing in Cleveland. They're not there anymore.
Nope. Yep.
This is like Ahmed Rosario's 5th different team since.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we got him from the Nationals for like nothing basically. We got him for Clayton Beater and Brown Martinez, not Brown Martinez, Brown.
Yeah, I was like, did Passan make a typo? Man, he's losing. No, that was true.
That's his name. But yeah.
Also, if Ahmed Rosario were to get a walk-off hit for the Yankees, it would not be the first time he's done it in Yankee Stadium.
I know. Once he got traded, that video of him hitting the walk-off in the empty Yankee Stadium in the bottom of the 7th inning of that doubleheader when the Mets were the home team, quite possibly one of the oddest things to maybe ever happen on a baseball field.
The weirdest walk-off of all time, like by far.
Yeah.
Bottom of the 7th in the opposing ballpark with nobody there.
Yeah, I don't think
that'd be pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I don't think we ever, I don't think we ever see that get topped unless the whole country is like rioting or something and like there's just no fans again. Or we have like another pandemic.
I might have to look at this after the show. I think that might have been on the day that Tom Seaver died. Because I know Tom Seaver died in August 2020.
You know what? I think you might be right because I do kind of remember. I kind of remember watching.
Something happened that night away from the game. I know, like, that's seared into my brain.
Yeah,
I remember, I was down, obviously, 2020, nobody was feeling good, but I remember, something specifically that day. I was like, oh man, that's tough.
Yeah, I do kind of remember. I was at work at my job at the time. I worked at a furniture store, and I remember streaming the Yankee game at my desk. I remember watching that game, and then I think I remember listening to the second game on the radio as I was driving home. And I remember John Sterling and Susan Waldman talking about how they just got word that Tom Seaver had passed away, and they were, they were singing his praises. So okay. I do very distinctly remember that day.
So actually it's close. So Tom Seaver died August 31st and Rosario's walk-off was August 28th. And I'm talking, but my brain's also working. It's like, all right, somebody died. Somebody died. Chadwick Boseman died that day. That's what it was. And so that's a baseball connection because he did play Jackie Robinson. So there's that.
Yeah, the day did kind of the days did kind of all mash together. But that was obviously a very crazy time, but I think they pretty much touched on everything. Crazy trade deadline. Yankees, Mets both got better today. And a lot of action around the league. So I think we can end the episode here. Thank you as always for tuning in, and of course, as always, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Make sure you're following us on socials at 4to7pod, at MIPod69. And we'll see you next time. Peace.
See you.